All right, everyone. Excuse me, there's a little frog in my voice. All right, everyone. Let's talk about how to handle stressful times, how to deal with stressful times. Several friends of mine have been hit with some very bad news from different directions. And one is that dealing with some unjust attacks. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. They're unfair, they're cruel, and they're not justified. And another dear friend is dealing with negative health news, test results. And even my husband and I have been going through a season of life of growth that is also stressful because it's so learning so many new things and dealing with so many things and keeping them all in perspective. And I wanted to share with you my 3 tips for when stressful times hit. What do you do? Because the problem is this: when we're stressed, it's like, when we've got this problem on our mind, we're carrying it in our mind and we're dealing with it. And we've got so many things, just we're ruminating on it. And so I wanted to give you some other options besides that to help you. All right. So in case we're meeting for the first time, my name is April Bragg, and I am a Christian life and relationship coach. And I am on a mission this year to help 100 women take their marriages from stressed to blessed. And I think that so many times when stressful times hit, it takes a toll on our marriage. We don't want it to, we don't mean for it to, but sometimes it does. And that's why I thought, let's share these tips because so I can give you better ways. All right. Or things that have worked for me. So anyway, when we're in this stressful time and it's like we've got the situation, and then we also have real life. Kids need to be fed, bills need to be paid, the dogs need to be taken to the vet, all these other pieces where life is just going on normally, even though we are under attack or we are under great strain from a health problem. What do? Well, when we are bringing that worry to all these areas of our life, it makes it even worse because it feels like we can't even get done what we normally get done. And then it might feel like we get behind even more. And then we start feeling overwhelmed, which contributes to more stress. And that is not helping the cycle at all. And we need better tools so we don't create more stress in our life. And also, what I want to share with you is this: it's not beneficial to bring worry to every moment of our day, because then we're just crowding out the natural little joys that we could be enjoying. And so the problem with stress is that when it's on our mind, we are distracted from doing what needs to be done, and we are prevented from enjoying what could still be enjoyed. So now, am I telling you to stop worrying? No, I'm not telling you to stop worrying. That's ridiculous. That's like somebody yelling at you, stay calm, just calm down. That doesn't work. That's not what we're doing here. But I am going to give you practical tips to practice. And this falls under the heading, this is what I like to call it: I'm going to tell you, instead of stop worrying, to instead intentionally worry. Have you ever tried intentionally worrying? So what do I mean by that? Well, number one, here's one tip of how to do this. Set aside time daily that you really will reflect upon the problem that is taking up all the space in your mind. You're like, but guess what? This is also telling your brain, hey, at 3 o'clock, I'm going to think about that. But I'm not going to think about it at 7 a.m. when I'm trying to get the kids out the door. And I'm not going to think about it at 8 a.m. when I'm trying to get my day at work started. And I'm not going to think about it at lunchtime when I was looking forward to going out to lunch with my coworker. And I'm not going to think about it at this time. But brain, I promise, we're going to get back to it. And I'm going to think about it at this time. Give yourself an intentional time daily. And then go at that worry like you'd go at any other task. You're trying to hurry up and get the groceries ordered and pick up the kids from school and do all these things. Yeah, just tell your brain, we don't need to be thinking about that stressful situation because I'm going to do all these things. But later at 3 o'clock or at 4 o'clock, whatever time you set, 5 o'clock, we're going to talk about it. We're going to think about it. We're going to get a piece of paper, write it down, see all the things I'm worried about. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Set aside an intentional time every single day to worry about it for as long as you need to. This will give your brain permission to then focus on the task at hand instead of trying to do 2 things at once. Okay, tip number 1. Tip number 2, take it to an outside person, someone who is neutral about this situation. This is what I offer for my clients. I have clients that take all their worry, they put it on a piece of paper, and then during our coaching session in the week, they bring it to me and they're like, okay, now's the time for me to think about all these things. I was going to stress about it earlier, but I do need to deal with it, so let's talk about it. And this is where I want to give you a big tip. Your mom, your best friend, your husband, they're not neutral. They care way too much about you to not be also worrying right along with you, to not be saying, well, I can't believe that. And yeah, or they're worried about it themselves. Or, I've noticed with my husband, if I take my worry to him, sometimes he doesn't feel like if we're in the same situation, he doesn't feel like he can take time to worry about it because he has to be strong for me. Okay. Now, marriage is a wonderful thing because it is this vehicle where when one person is down, the other person can lift them up. But I want you to be aware that sometimes these situations are affecting both people. And sometimes the support you need is from somebody who is not being affected by that situation. So just hear that. Consider getting someone who can have an outside perspective on your situation so that they can bring different thoughts to this perspective than you have. And that might not be the person that's closest to you, your spouse, your one flesh, your best friend, your girlfriend, your mom. It might not be. Okay. And then thirdly, another tip for handling stressful times is this. I'm going to share with you the question. I'm going to tell you to coach yourself. This is what I help my clients with. And these are the questions that I would ask them. Okay, you're right. Sounds like a big situation. Sounds hard. Sounds very stressful. I know you're stressed about it. But let's go forward a few years, or maybe just a few months. Everything works out. And everything works out surprisingly beautifully. How would you want to be able to look back at this situation? How would you want to feel instead of worrying? Now, I'm not telling you to give up your worry. That is absolutely what I am not telling you to do. I'm telling you to just for a minute see that there's an option. That yes, it's natural to worry. But if you didn't want to worry, how would you rather feel instead? Would you rather feel peaceful, serene, wise, compassionate? If it's somebody else, compassionate towards yourself? Would you rather feel present? Would you rather feel patient? That's another one. How would you rather feel? And then the second question off that one, the tag question, is this: what would you need to believe about that situation in the future? What could you possibly believe about that situation that would make you able to feel that? You know, I have done this specific exercise a lot with my clients and a lot with myself. And I know it works. Anytime I find myself in a stressful situation, I usually say, I want to feel calm in the moment. I want to be able to access feeling calm instead of worry all the time. Now, this is not a perfectionist like I should and I have to, but it's just what would help me feel calm in the moment. And I always go back to that verse in Romans 8:28 that says, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. That verse calms me. And if it's somebody that's attacking me, or if it's something that seems incredibly unjust, there is another verse in the Old Testament. Joseph was talking to his brothers years after they had done him terrible, terrible wrongs. And in Genesis 50:20, it says, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring to pass as it is this day to save many people alive. Those two verses remind me that the story's not finished yet. I, in this worry moment, am only seeing one tiny, tiny little moment in eternity. I'm only even seeing one tiny little moment in my life. And as long as I'm in this tiny little bubble, this tiny little moment, I feel trapped and I feel overwhelmed. And it feels too big. It feels bigger than myself. But if I can find a way to stretch out my perspective and to see it not as an all-consuming moment, but as just one moment on a timeline that might stretch 80 years of my life, 100 years of my life, and might stretch for eternity from God's perspective, it's helpful. It brings breathing room into the situation. It brings perspective. So that is what we're actually doing with these 3 tips. We're just trying to bring breathing room, bring perspective into it. First, by instead of worrying about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're bringing it down to maybe an hour a day of intentional worry. Secondly, maybe we're taking it to an outside perspective and we're dealing with it on a weekly basis in a very intentional, productive, helpful way from somebody who's not in the situation with us. And then thirdly, we're just tapping into God's promises, and we ourselves are bringing it into the perspective of eternity. Do not put pressure on yourself. Do not think that just because you're worried doesn't mean that there's not also faith in present in your life in this situation. One of my very favorite passages is when the father was bringing his child who was ill to Jesus. And Jesus says, "Do you believe that I can heal him?" And the father says this, "Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief." Okay? The presence of doubt does not mean that there's a complete absence of belief, of faith. Both things can be happening at one time. So let's just make more room for faith, more room for the regular parts of our life, and just put a little box, a little container, walls around that worry, just a little bit. Don't have to get rid of it. Let's just bring it down to a more manageable size. Okay? All right. I hope that has helped you. Tell me in the comments below if you're catching this live, which part has helped you. So, and if it has helped you, comment below and like it and share it maybe with a friend who really needs some encouragement during a stressful time. Maybe that friend is being attacked unjustly. Maybe that friend is under heavy news and they don't know how they're going to deal with it. You don't have to solve your friend's problems, okay? But share with them this help and share with them that the presence of doubt does not negate the fact that you can also have faith. It's okay. It's going to be okay. All right? All right. That's all I have for you. You have a blessed day. Bye-bye.